tragic fate is looking softly. Yeah. It's your fucking nightmare.
Hello, greetings everyone, and welcome back to my personal channel, which I use to describe and explain and clarify regarding my recently published book, The Sleeper Agent, The Rise of Lyme Disease, Chronic Illness, and the Great Imitator Antigens of Biological Warfare. I have just put up a new section on my website for the videos. I don't post all the videos there, I just kind of use that for the people because I have the address on the back of my book, thesleeperagent.com. And it's going to be, I just added that page just to show those people who aren't subscribed yet where I can be found on YouTube. So, I have that up. But in this video, I wanted to talk more about the relationship between viruses and cancer. Since the last video that I published, I was talking about the immune tolerance phenomenon, and I talked about that dark triad of expression that immune tolerance can take. Chronic disease, mental illness or neurological problems, and cancers. So it doesn't necessarily mean that each person is going to experience all three of those. Well, they'll experience the chronic fatigue or the chronic disease, which, chronic fatigue would be included in that oftentimes. The chronic disease would be something that they definitely will get. Now, and neurological problems. Now, as far as mental illness, there are different degrees of psychological problems, of course, and it is a very wide spectrum, and just the neurotropic effect in general always accompanies the immune tolerance. So you get that invasion of the central nervous system, and you get the reactivation of viruses, and a lot of times those viruses that reactivate are neurotropic, like a lot of those common herpes viruses. When they're latent, they're not considered harmful, but when they're reactivated into active form, they are both neurotropic and oncogenic, meaning they can cause cancer. And there's actually, I have right here, this was one of the big 3-ring binders that I have on the Special Virus Cancer Program that was decades long into the study of cancer, and it looks like a lot of the biological warfare program starting in the 60s was hidden under the cover of cancer research. And of course that would be true of the incapacitating agents, anything that can cause cancer, and that was another value of the incapacitating agents. Not only did they cause chronic diseases, but they could also raise the cancer rate. And Eric Traub found in his LCM virus studies that he could raise the cancer rate to 50% with this immune tolerance phenomenon and LCM virus in mice. But in general, the cancer rate can be brought far higher. And the immune tolerance, you can think of this as chronic immunosuppression, and it's not the same kind of immunosuppression as the immunosuppression seen in AIDS or HIV. It's not the same. That is primarily a T-cell immunosuppression, and you'll see in normal blood work, you'll see those T-cells, those immune cells will be affected, but with this kind of immunosuppression in the immune tolerance, it's different. The B cells are often affected, and they're taken over by viruses and your immune cells will kind of be like zombie immune cells. They don't work properly, but they're still there. So doing like an immune cell count doesn't really tell you much if they're still there, but they're ineffective. And a lot of the B cells can also be taken over and what is called immortalized by Epstein-Barr virus and other viruses. Probably, well, not probably, like SV40. That would be one that could immortalize the B cells. It means, so basically when a cell is infected, one of those immune cells is infected, usually there's a defense mechanism from the body that'll destroy those B cells and make new ones because those ones are infected and they're no good. But what this does is it keeps them alive indefinitely, but they're taken over by virus and they're cranking out more virus. Turned into like a virus factory, basically. But there has been a very long relationship between, or it has been established for a very long time that there is a definite relationship between viruses and cancer. Now, that's not to say that cancer can't also be caused by things like chemicals. They can. And I would even bet to say that even when there is a chemical caused cancer, that viruses will probably also be involved and reactivated there too. I haven't looked into that enough to say for sure, but I would bet to say that is true. But Eric Traub found this immune tolerance phenomenon, this chronic immunosuppressive state that brought that central nervous system invasion and cancers. And we know that anything that can induce immune tolerance will reactivate latent viruses. And when you reactivate those latent viruses, then we know those are oncogenic viruses, a lot of them. A lot of the viruses in like the herpes virus family are established oncogenic viruses when reactivated from latency. Epstein-Barr virus, that's an oncogenic virus when reactivated. Human herpes virus 6 is an oncogenic virus when reactivated. Number 8, which is Kaposi's sarcoma virus. Let's see. What are the other ones? Cytomegalovirus. That's number 5, and that's one that often is found in women. As far as I know. I mean, I've talked a lot. It seems like a lot of the girls that I've talked to over the years that have been sick with that chronic disease often have that cytomegalovirus reactivation. But it was established, the special virus cancer program. I did have an article on my older site about the special virus cancer program. Maybe I will republish that on this site or something, or just kind of, maybe I will re-examine it and go over it in another video. But I wanted to establish that, because people will say, Eric Traub's mouse studies, well, that's about mice. We're humans. Well, the process, and like I said in the last video, the process is a general, that was an animal study of a general condition that is the same in humans. Reactivation of latent viruses is one of the mechanisms in the immune tolerance phenomenon, and they reactivate because the immune system cannot do its job. It is suppressed and overwhelmed to such an extent that it can't keep those viruses in check, and they reactivate and they start destroying the body from head to toe, basically. And that's generally, it's those reactivated viruses that serve as most of the chronic disease expression, even when you get things like Lyme disease. Because the Lyme disease spirochetes suppress the immune system with those toxic blebs that they shed into the blood. It suppresses the immune system, and then when the immune system is suppressed, then you get this, what is called a reactivated viral syndrome. All these reactivated viruses that are active from head to toe in your organs, and that's why, the body becomes eventually so overwhelmed that it leads to cancer. And now, this can also happen to certain organs, right? And I know I mentioned in previous videos about Trab's ability to adapt pathogens and viruses to different animals and such. Well, the same was also true about his ability to adapt agents to certain organs. Like he could adapt the virus to attack the liver, or he could adapt the virus to take to the heart, the stomach, or the brain, things like that. So oftentimes when you have like a cancer of certain organs, it's usually probably something that has taken to that organ and has overwhelmed it to such a degree that eventually it causes cancer. And that's, it was a big deal when he realized in those studies of LCM that he could raise the cancer rate to 50%. And I'll find that quote where he says that. Let me just check. Where? There was a part. I don't know. Hold on. Give me a minute. Oh, here we go. He says, the interaction between persistent LCM virus infection and leukemia in mice, and, to a lesser extent, in guinea pigs, has been the subject of numerous publications. We reported in 1941 that lymphatic leukemia was more frequent and appeared at a younger age in persistently infected mice from the Princeton colony than in LCM virus-free controls derived from the same stock. Later, leukemia was also seen in 1 of 2 wild mice persistently infected with LCM virus, which Dr. Haas had sent me from the USA. So in the wild, it's like, 1 of 2, that's 50%. 1 in 2 mice had that cancer from being persistently infected. And that's what's so dangerous about the immune tolerance phenomenon. And, this great imitator antigen, is called the great imitator antigen because when it suppresses that immune system, it brings on all these other diseases from the reactivated virus. And a lot of those reactivated viruses also have that antigen on it. But it's a lipid-like antigen, right? It's a very nasty, toxic lipid antigen, and these should never be injected into the blood. But they're doing it to people on a wide scale, telling them that it'll give them immunity to different things, but these people are not told that, hey, actually it's going to cause immune tolerance, and when that happens, then you have all of the stuff that plays out with that, which is described in my book. And what plays out? That dark triad of immune tolerance: cancer, mental illness and neurological problems, and chronic disease. And so when you think about this, right? Like, what happens when you put olive oil in water, how it clumps together. It doesn't mix. Well, the same happens when you inject that stuff into your blood. Only it clumps to your organs. It travels through pathways and starts clumping to your joints, to your muscles, to your organs, and it goes to your brain, suppresses the immune system. It basically throws the immune system into disarray. But see, the process is so different for each person. It's like when the immune system is thrown into disarray, you're not going to see the same course of disease in each person. It's actually going to be unique for each person. Now, they'll generally have common symptoms, they'll have a common set of symptoms, but there'll be different combinations, and it'll unravel in a different way. Like, it'll unravel, in a different time period for each person. Like, these things can unravel slowly, too. It's basically because when you take the immune system out, it causes disease to unravel in infinite variation so that no two are exactly the same. But there has been a long history of viruses and cancer. I know that it's not just those human herpes viruses, but also things like SV40, that was a virus of monkeys that contaminated the polio shots and was given to half of the U.S. population by 1960. Later on, now if you looked it up on Wikipedia, it would tell you that there's no evidence that it's a cancer-causing virus, but there's actually places that have established it, scientific foundations or something like. I don't want to say it was the National Science Foundation, but it's somewhere that was like an official place had established that yes, it is oncogenic and causes cancer in humans. Like, they had known that it caused cancer in hamsters and all sorts of other animals for decades, since its inception. And now they're finally admitting. And there was a congressional hearing. It was called Preventing Another SV40 Tragedy. And they called it a tragedy because it truly was. Because when you have half the U.S. population that was given that, contaminated, that's quite a tragedy. And if you look at the cancer rate today, skyrocket. And I may actually go into the special virus cancer program in another book. It was a very long program. Started in the 60s, and you could say that it was initiated in light of those earlier studies on LCM virus by Eric Traub. And a lot of his colleagues and some of his students actually participated in that special virus cancer program. Werner Schaefer, he was Traub's protege. He participated in that program. And there was a lot of Americans that had looked up to Traub, like American scientists, like Wallace P. Rowe. Just a lot of prominent virologists took part in that special virus cancer program. But it was basically Traub who pioneered all of that work with his LCM virus and that whole immune tolerance phenomenon, which then brought all of that research on reactivated viruses like those in the herpes virus family. So it is proven beyond a doubt, there's no doubt, a lot of these viruses have been established to cause cancer. LCM virus is another one, of course, and that does not just infect mice, it infects humans. But LCM virus in mice was kind of like an animal model of the Epstein-Barr virus and viruses like it in humans, even though that the LCM virus does actually infect humans and causes the same disease. So I guess in a way it's not necessarily an animal model. It's just that he kind of used that as an animal model. He was a veterinarian, and he liked to have like an animal model of something which then could be used for his weapons against humans. And he often adapted animal viruses to humans. He turned animal diseases into human diseases as part of his biological warfare. Let's see if there's any other relevant points I should make about this. I mean, it's established. There's no doubt about it. There is voluminous literature in the scientific research on this connection. And there was a very long program that spanned decades. And it looks as... Not looks, that it definitely... There definitely was a lot of biological warfare research that was hidden under the cancer program. And we know that is true because Garth Nicholson, who was working at the MD Anderson Cancer Center in Texas, he wrote this book, Project Daylily, a fictional account about a real situation, about all the mycoplasma testing in the Texas prison systems and the testing, at various other places. And it was bioweapons related research. And I mean, it's easy to see it, especially when you're someone like me. I have like just dozens and dozens of 3-ring binders. Like I'm very good at spotting how they hide their research, and you can always find like grants from military outfits and things like that. And some of the players that were colleagues of Eric Traub, or people that were connected to him in some way, or some of his colleagues. And I've got to kind of know the names over the years. But definitely, you're going to see the cancer rates just continue to skyrocket. And I think I read, in the last few years that it had increased like 300%. And it's going to keep growing. And there were some old congressional hearings about the rollout of recombinant DNA or genetic engineering technologies, and it was shown that a lot of those may have carcinogenic potential, and certainly, but I think too it's also just all over the place. The scientific research is just getting way too out of hand, and the experimentation on the public, like for example, they were releasing those Wolbachia infected mosquitoes by the millions. And the idea was that this supposed bacteria was supposed to breed them out, and it was supposed to be used as a form of insect control. But there was another article that said how this large-scale experiment actually failed to have the desired effect. The mosquitoes weren't bred out. It actually became an even bigger problem, and now they're finding these Wolbachia antigens in people with cancer. But I think it's coming from just multiple sources, this cancer problem. And I would say mostly, though, it's because of this immune tolerance phenomenon that has been pretty much induced into most of the populations, especially after 2021. Because that shot works that way. It induces immune tolerance because it it stimulates those what are called toll-like receptors 2 and 1, and anything that can stimulate 2 and 1 will bring on that immune tolerance. And they were looking at it as a defense strategy. So yeah, you can kind of quiet the immune system so that it doesn't have that fatal reaction, but then when you're raising the cancer rate to 50%, is that a viable solution? No, it is not. And then also bringing on chronic disease and neurological diseases and mental illnesses. So it's absolutely not a viable solution. But they're doing it anyway. But if you read my book, you'll get a much better handle on this information, and it's information that could save your life. I think I'm going to leave it there. In the future, I will do more videos about the cancer and virus relationship. And with that said, everybody take care of yourself, be yourself, build yourself, and I will see you on the other side.